Remember, you're going to hear some echoing from me potentially, or maybe it's just me.
Can you hear me now?
Teeny,
Woohoo!
yeah,
Okay.
you had us running circles.
I know. I'm on here twice.
All right.
It was more the obscure name that had us moving. The pond.
You know,
Fine.
her email is similar to that, so I should have known better. All right. Maybe I'll just start to, for those that are new to this, this is a Zoom meeting. It's a public meeting of Camden Planning Board, March 4th, 2021, due to the governor's executive orders and the COVID pandemic. We're operating under the Zoom platform for public meetings, and we do take public comment, and we've tried to express to everyone to try to get information or comments to us via email, and or call or send them to the planning board. And we've asked people if they wanted to get onto this. We've given them that opportunity. So I'll start there. Ethan, maybe you can kick it off. I do have one non-agenda item that'll go probably pretty quickly, that we could start with.
Okay, so you want me to open the meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Yes, please.
Okay. This is the Camden Planning Board meeting of March 4th. We're going to be hearing some zoning, an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and I will now formally open the meeting.
All right, thank you. I've got a non-agenda item, and this is from Peter Lindquist, Camden resident. He inquired with me about how to propose ordinance changes, and I reached out to him. This is a specific issue that he has, and I reached out to him and said it's either the town can initiate one, the planning board can, the select board through their goals and priorities can initiate and request some zoning amendments or map amendments, or they can be done by petition. And so just for ease of this conversation, we have two different kinds of amendments moving forward tonight. One is proposed by the town, and another one is proposed by a individual who lives in town. So Mr. Lindquist's request or his email to me was asking the planning board a desire to enact a clear cutting ordinance put on the town warrant this coming November, which should allow details and discussion to be introduced and vetted. And that's a comment that Peter Lindquist wanted me to share with you today. And it's probably shouldn't discuss that tonight because it's not on an agenda item, but I think we should probably include that on the next agenda, at least a discussion on that. I don't have any site plans in the works that I'm aware of or any other amendments that we're working on right now. So I think we should jump into, and the select board was, some of the select board was pretty clear that we should be working on some ordinance, at least comp plan amendments and things like that. So we can add this to the list and have a discussion about this the next planning board meeting, if that's okay.
Okay.
All righty then. And
excuse me, Jeremy, do you have any, can you give us any more clarity about like what it is he would like to accomplish? Does he want a clear cutting ordinance to be devised to make?
This isn't even on the agenda, so I think we should really just table the whole discussion.
Correct.
Jeremy can bring that to us at the next meeting. We will put it on the agenda and take it from there.
Yep, I think that's the best course of action. Sound good. So Ethan, we're into the public hearing section. Unless there are other comments from the public, that would be the only ones with us today would be Lori Frake. Lori will probably have some comments during the hearing, or maybe not, but we can start,
Sure.
open the meeting and do a roll call of members. And
Yep.
and I think we tried to give you, or Jeannie tried to give you a little sheet to go by today. So
Yeah, Jeannie's giving me a little crib sheet. So, yep. So first we'll do a roll call for the members present. Mark Siegenthaler,
Present.
Pat Chen, alternate,
Present.
Matt Siegel,
Present.
Anita Brochus Scott,
Present.
Andy Smith, alternate,
Present.
myself, Ethan Shaw, present, and Chris Russo is not present.
no, Chris Rio is not here today.
Yeah, okay. That means we need to appoint one of the alternate members to sit. So I'll hear a motion on that in Christo's absence.
Oh, who would like to volunteer?
Would Pat like to volunteer?
Oh, sure.
In that case, Ethan, I'd like to make a motion to swear in Pat Chen as a sitting member and voting member of the wrong committee, of the Camden Planning Board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Matt Siegel and a second from Mark Siegenthaler to appoint Pat Chen as the sitting member in Christo's absence. All board members in favor say aye or
Aye.
indicate. Mark?
Aye.
Ethan, oh, thanks. You have to do a roll call.
Okay, I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeannie. Yep.
Yep.
Matt Siegel,
Aye.
Anita.
Aye.
Okay, and it's an aye for me. Welcome, Pat. Matt, what do you got? You have something, Matt?
Nope, just voting in
Okay.
favor of Pat Chen. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm on a little delay here or something. Okay, so we have a quorum. We can open the public hearing. The first item on the agenda is to amend the Town of Camden zoning map. Map 120 lot 53, 20 Lions Lane. Town of Camden wastewater plant.
All right, and maybe I'll just kind of introduce this. It's not often in communities that lots are split zone. We have a handful of those lots in town. One of them is the wastewater treatment plant lot. Part of it is zoned B1. The other, a portion of it is zoned village. And let me get to the zoning map. Everyone see that screen?
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
Can you see my arrow here?
Yes.
All right. So if you look at this yellow, this is the wastewater treatment lot, and there's the property line there, and this would be the larger school property lot. As everyone knows, we just went through, or I assume everyone knows, voters should know, they voted to do the bond to do the upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant that were needed. And that project did go through planning board approval. And the development actually covers for the most part, the whole lot. I mean, certainly there is areas that are vegetated and forested along the river, but we have a large storage building and wastewater treatment facility equipment and infrastructure and buildings and tanks in both of these areas, which really makes a cumbersome process for a designer. You've got to meet all of the requirements, and they're really different. It's a challenging situation when you have, especially kind of an industrial type of lot that has been developed like this for years and for decades. So what we wanted to do is kind of clean up this, and from my perspective, there's another one down on Main Street in Camden that we ought to look at in the future. That is just split zoned and really no reason for it. So this is a proposal just to amend the town zoning map to extend the B1 that is here to this area. There is no intention, and I'll say this for the benefit of Lori that is here. There is no intention to do any further development other than that which has been approved by town voters for the improvements in this area. That large existing storage building that's down there is still going to be there. The pavement's still going to be there. We're not encroaching any closer, any towards the river, than we are. This would also facilitate, just so folks know, would facilitate extension of the Riverwalk as well through this area, where currently in the village we have an issue with it. So this is a pretty unique, environmentally sensitive area over here. And we certainly there's no intention to change that or have any impacts on that. But we would like to try to, at some point, get the Riverwalk to extend through here as well. And that's really the gist of this zoning map amendment. We had a discussion about this, some time ago, and it's been noticed. It's gone through all the public notice and requirements and posting requirements that are required. This is a public hearing for that. And then keep in mind that it goes to the select board, where it would then have another public hearing, and then it would go to the select board again for what the warrant language will be. I always kind of like it. The ultimate public hearing is town vote. So there's 3 real, hearings, and the public has a place to comment on these. This is the first one. I had chatted with you guys about this again, maybe a month or so ago, maybe longer now. And everyone was in favor of it at the time, or when we had that initial workshop on it. So that's what I have to say, Ethan, about this map amendment. You can feel free to ask me questions. I think this is when you open the public hearing, Ethan, and
Yep.
first round of comments from the public, and then you close that, and then go from there. And then you can ask me questions. Sound good?
Sure. Yep. Thank you, Jeremy.
You want me
It
to
is time
stop?
to, it
Do
is,
you want me to stop sharing my screen?
yeah, I think we don't need to see any
Okay.
more of that for now. If anybody's had any questions, we'll bring it up again.
Yeah.
It is time now to open the hearing to public comment. Any members of the public wish to comment, speak, ask questions, now is the time. You can do that via email, mail, or on the YouTube chat board, or here in the Zoom meeting if you're admitted. So we'll take a second to check around and see if we have any public comments.
I haven't- Go ahead.
Am I off mute?
You are, Lori.
Okay, great.
If you
Well,
can say your name and your address.
Sure. So Lori Frake, 13 Rawson Avenue. And I think you answered the questions that my husband and I had. And that was basically to understand if this zoning change was for further development, other than we understand, the desire to, bring that Riverwalk project, into fruition. We were just concerned. We sit at the top of the hill there with the view. We're right on the corner of Herrick and Rawson, with a pretty substantial waterfront. We look over that area, and we're just concerned about the change in zoning leading the way for future development. And if you, are not pushing that zoning, other than for the Riverwalk, I don't believe that, we would have any concerns then.
And I would say I don't think it's just for the Riverwalk, right, Jeremy? Do you want to clarify that?
Yeah, sure. I think that's right. It's not just for the Riverwalk. It is to, from my perspective, clean up the zoning map and just make it actually live with what's actually happening on the face of the earth there. I mean, as you know, Lori, sitting there, I don't know if you can see the big, the storage facility the town has down there and the mass.
During the winter, when the you
Yeah.
know, leaves fall off, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so, nothing is planned there. I mean, we're spending a significant amount of money here. I think it's $16 million or something that has been allocated to fund the wastewater treatment plant improvements. There are no plans for additional work there. It is the wastewater treatment lot. And Dave Bolstridge is pretty I guess strict. I don't know if that's the word, but for wastewater treatment facilities, there's a lot of requirements from federal and state governments on how you secure and you develop your site and keep public out. Dave is, we're limiting development as much as we can there, and we're building out a wastewater treatment plant there. And once we build this, it's going to be decades and decades and decades likely before we ever need to do anything else again. Hopefully half a century, right? Would be my guess, at least.
Okay, well, that's good clarification. Cleanup
Yep.
is great. There it is, as you noted, a pretty environmentally sensitive watershed area. So, we're just concerned about that. We really take care with how we treat plants, with anything that we use, on our yards, everything that we do, along there to ensure that we're, being environmentally conscious of that riverfront as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can tell you the town comes from the same perspective. I think every one of the select board members comes from where you're at when it comes to the environment. And, the town we will do what we can to protect the environment. So.
Great. Well, thank you.
So,
Yep.
so just for full disclosure here, and maybe Jeremy, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
The Riverwalk, the issue with the Riverwalk is that the walk itself is considered ground coverage, and that under village, there's under the village zone shoreland area, there's 20% ground coverage, and in the B1 there is no restriction for ground coverage. Is that?
Yeah, that is true. I think really what the issue here, Mark, is it is about from the trail perspective, it's about setback from the resource in the B1 where the trail is now, and in the developed area of town, you can have a setback of 25 feet, and in the shoreland zone, things like even a stone dust path, which is what we have, is defined as a structure. And so that has to be 25 feet from the normal high water mark of the river. And when you get to the village zone, all of a sudden it's 75 feet is what it gets to. So, it's really, especially in this location, that really limits the ability to do a river walk in that area, because all of a sudden we're way up into the site of the wastewater treatment plant, and we've worked really hard with Dave Bolstridge to try to figure out a way we can bring the Riverwalk trail up onto the wastewater treatment lot more. That is a challenging thing when he has the chemicals that are needed for wastewater treatment and the type of system it is. He has security requirements, and so he doesn't have people up on the site. So we're going to try to continue the Riverwalk down here, and eventually you get to the school property. And then hopefully we can work with the school in the future to continue it, or at least to get it there. I don't know if people have walked on this Riverwalk trail right now. It's wonderful. It's great. You're walking, you go past the old skateboard park, and then you end up at a dead end and a fence, and you're nowhere. And you actually have to turn around and walk back from where you came. Hopefully, at least, we know that there are other issues and potential impediments to extending the Riverwalk all the way to, the dam or to the tannery site. We know that that's going to be a challenging endeavor, no doubt about it. But at least to be able to get people through this really beautiful area, an environmentally sensitive area, which I think is neat. I think it's important to get people to the resource so they can value and appreciate it. And so this at least gets them to the school property, where hopefully someday we can work with the school to at least get up onto the, the ball field area, et cetera. And that's the hope. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
Sure.
Are there any more public comments or questions? Who's monitoring our YouTube channel? Is that you, Jeannie, or is that you, Jeremy?
I see no one there.
Okay,
And I have no emails coming into my email inbox.
okay. All right,
And
then I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment period. And we will go ahead and open this up to the board for comments. There will be a second public comment period after board discussion if necessary. Does anybody on the board have any comments on the proposal?
I guess my comment would be that this amendment seems to make perfect sense. I mean, I think it works.
Okay. Matt, any comment?
No, I think we covered it in the workshop in terms of some of the objections that Lori had in terms of ground cover. And so I feel about where this is going.
Okay. Anita?
I think it makes a lot of sense, especially given that it's kind of an industrial use of the land, and it's really not the type of use that the traditional village district was created for. So it just makes sense to do that. And of course, I'm very much in favor of the Riverwalk and doing what we can to make the resource visible to our citizens, because it's a spectacular resource. It goes right through town, and there's not very many places where you can actually appreciate it and enjoy it. So this is a great opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Anita. Pat, do you have any comments?
No, just I feel pretty much the same as what Anita expressed. Happy about the continuity for one business to have the same zoning in all areas, and as far as the Riverwalk goes.
Okay, great. And Andy, do you want to chime in with anything?
Sure. Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. I remember in the workshop we talked about, having two different performance standards on one lot, just being onerous. So yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Okay. And I will definitely throw my weight behind that too. I feel like the discussion we had at the workshop demonstrated that we all were pretty much in favor of cleaning up this one little quirk in our zoning amendment, and it had other benefits as well, or zoning ordinance. So does anybody else have any questions for Jeremy or anything else that we need to raise?
We just comment for folks. I mean, it is town-owned property, and you know how, this is town meeting form of government in the state of Maine. Nothing happens on town property without anyone knowing about it. I mean, everyone will know about anything that happens there if the town ever wants to do anything.
Right.
Everyone will know. There'll be a public notice.
And of course, we're at the very tip of the iceberg as far as the whole process of approving this amendment anyway.
Right.
It will go through the select board and then through a town vote as well. So I don't think there's any reason for a second public comment period, but I will ask if anybody has any additional comments in the public.
I do not.
And that was
Thank
Lori?
you.
Yes.
That was,
All right,
yeah.
perfect. Thank you, Lori.
And
You bet.
and no further comments, Jeremy, on the YouTube channel?
No.
Okay, great.
So are we ready for a motion?
Oh, we sure are.
I'd like,
So Jeannie can
Wait,
get
I see Anita's hand up. Anita,
Yep.
did you have something else?
I just want to make sure I understand what Jeremy went through. This is going to a select board public hearing, then to the select board for warrant language, then to a town vote, and that is anticipated to take place in the June town meeting. Is that all correct? Or did I miss something?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So Mark, you got a motion for us?
I would make a motion to amend the zoning map as proposed in reference to the village zone being changed to B1,
And that you move to forward it onto the select board.
and that it should be forwarded to the select board.
Great.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Well, before we second that, Mr. Chair, do we need to, Jeremy, do we need to have the lot and the map numbers on there to do this officially
In the motion?
in the motion?
Sure, throw it in there, Mark, if you don't mind.
Just again, Mark, I think it's lot 120, map 53.
Map 120, lot 53.
No, lot 120, map 53.
Nope, map
That's
120,
according
lot
to-
53.
Yeah.
That's why we want to make sure this is for Lori, so we don't suddenly have, yeah, here we go. To make sure we're amending the right
You
area.
have that in front of you, Mark?
I do not.
Okay,
So
map 120, lot
Yeah.
53.
lot 53, 20 Lions Lane, Temp Camden wastewater plant. That's the way it reads. The public hearing.
Okay. Are we ready for a second?
I will
Okay.
second that motion, Ethan, as amended to include the lot and map numbers. Thank you.
Okay, you got that, Jeannie? Jeannie may be on mute. All in favor?
Yes, I do. Sorry.
Thank you, Jeannie. All in favor?
You need a roll call.
Roll call.
I do again? Geez, boy, I'm gonna get this right eventually. Okay, we'll go around in order of seniority. Age before beauty. Mark Siegenthaler.
Yes.
Okay, Matt Siegel.
Yes.
Anita.
Yes.
Pat.
Yes.
And I also, yes. That's 5 unanimous. The motion passes. And we will send this on to the select board for their approval,
Thank
for
you.
consideration.
Yep.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your work, and thank you, Lori Frake, for coming in and providing public comment.
Absolutely. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lori. Oh, you can stick around if you want. It gets really exciting from here.
Oh, well, you know what? I'll leave you guys to it. You carry on.
All right, take
All
care.
right. Thank you so much.
Mr.
Bye.
Chair, Ethan, Mark Radner referred to us as paint drying, so I don't know why people would be leaving.
You know, it just depends on the kind of paint. I mean, if you're looking at Edward Munch's painting, it might be exciting,
I can't wait. Let's go do some painting.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can go ahead then and move on to agenda item. Is it number? It's number 3, 4. We have a citizen's request for an amendment, public information meeting. Let's see.
Number 2.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
number
Number
two.
2. Number 2 under number 3.
Yeah,
It's a
right.
citizen's request for an amendment, public information meeting, informal discussion with the petitioner board and public.
Right. All right.
And I will ask Jeremy to go ahead and introduce the item again, and then we will move from there.
Perfect. Thank you. And maybe what I'll do first is kind of detail the process and where we are, how we got here and all that. Just bear with me. I'm trying to get through my stuff so I can share a screen as well. And I'm just going to be right there. All right. It's there, so it should be there when I come back. All right, sorry about that. There's 3 ways, 2 ways really, that zoning amendments can be done. The town can initiate a zoning amendment. Planning board, that was kind of pushed by the planning board. The select board can ask staff and the planning board to pursue zoning amendment. And then there's this other option, and that is the citizen initiated process. And that's what we have in front of us. We have, as all you can recall, we talked about this the last time. Chip Late owns a property up on Route 1, and we had this discussion, a workshop on it. This is another workshop. We have already set the public hearing for this for March 18th, I believe, right? Yep. And so things are set in motion to do that. We had a lengthy discussion at the last time about trying to look at other things that we can clean up while we were doing this. And it made a lot of sense. However, this is a citizen kind of initiated process. This is not a town cleanup, fix ordinance piece. And we're going to continue it down that path. I had this discussion with the town attorney, and it is, this is initiated by a property owner, and we should kind of keep it to where it is. And it gets complicated, especially when you start looking at uses that have been grandfathered and the like over time, and zoning amendments can be challenging and can be very controversial in town. And there's a lot of, if you do this, then is there, this other ulterior thing that we didn't really want to have happen, but it impacts something else in a negative way that we really didn't intend. So we're kind of trying to keep this as the property owner, Chip Late, has requested. And we have tweaked the language a little bit. I think everyone understands what we were looking for the last time was to add tradesman shops to the permitted commercial use section. And then to clarify some language in here, we added, and it was based on the discussion we had. And if you want me to share my screen, I can probably share that. Let's see. Uh-oh, where'd it go?
So,
Hold on one sec, Mark.
Yep.
Oh, that's not it. That's definitely important. Hold on, bear with me. Oh, yoy. What happened, Matt Siegel? I'm looking to you because there it is. All right. So this is the language, existing language. Outdoor storage of boats, provided the screening standards of Article 10, Part 2, Section 3.5 are met. And so that stays the same.
Jeremy, you have the wrong thing up there, just so you know.
I do.
Yeah.
What do I
Yeah,
have?
I'm seeing
You have an
something completely
email
different.
about,
Yeah, it's something
All right.
about,
It's not anything that you need to hide real quick, but it's definitely not the right document.
so,
All right. I don't know what was there.
It's
Sorry.
okay. It was G-rated. We're all good.
All right. So the language, I don't know if someone else can maybe share.
Yeah,
the
we can do it.
screen
Hold
if
on one
they've
second.
got it.
We'll get you going.
Matt will do it.
Here we go. Hold on a second.
So we added tradesman shops, and we tweaked some language, and we just added existing commercial buildings. And then we amend Article 8. There we go. I'm going to try to control it, but I can't. You got it, Matt.
Yep.
And we had this conversation before, and it was to, we wanted to limit the expansions to 10,000 square feet of new floor area attached to existing commercial buildings and used for indoor storage, maintenance, construction of boats, and or by tradesmen, provided that the building was in existence as of January 1, 2003, is on lots of 5 acres or more in size, and is at least 125 feet from any residential lot boundary or public way. That's kind of where we ended up. And just for this purpose, I think, we can have a board discussion on that. If you guys like that language, then we can have Chip kind of introduce himself again and his proposal. And then we would need to do a board discussion and a vote again. If you have any changes, we need to absolutely get those done today, and the final language is today. And then it'll be noticed, and you guys will forward it to a public hearing on March 18th.
Okay.
That's where we are.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy.
I'll stop my share in 1 second.
Most of the board, I would assume the board has this language also in front of them. Does anybody have any input on the proposed language? It was pretty much what we decided at our last, or discussed at our last, pre-information discussion or informal workshop. Anybody have any input on this language?
Well, it wasn't really. I mean, what we discussed at the last meeting was to clean up several of the paragraphs, and this was adjusted by the town attorney because, as
Well-
Jeremy said, it's a citizen's request, not
Sure.
our changing it. So
Yep.
with that said, I'm confused at why in paragraph 10, why the additional wording was added, which I just lost here.
Existing commercial?
Yes,
Okay, so you want me to answer that right now? That one
Sure.
first?
Yep.
So what we didn't want to have happen was, again, those unintended consequences of someone that could, in the CR zone, remember the CR is generally residential. And if you look at the way, and we talked about it, how the CR is laid out, we have kind of three, and the comp plan even talks about it as well. We have three kind of very distinct coastal residential zone areas and zones in town. And there are buildings, how it reads now, Mark, and the idea, so we had a conversation with the select board in addition following the planning board meeting, where we went over zoning amendments and things that are in process because things need to go to them too. And there were some that were concerned about unintended consequences. And I think as everyone understood, we were talking about a specific property and a specific commercial location that's in the CR. There's most of CR has no commercial properties at all right now. And that this, again, since this is a petition from a property owner, it was, from my perspective, the best way to protect against those unintended consequences is to really nail this down to what the proposer of this amendment is asking for. And this is for his property. It's not really for other properties. It's benefiting his lot. It could benefit others potentially in the CR, but that are commercial existing on. What we didn't want this to do was, without a thorough review of the coastal residential zone and where we may think in certain areas, especially along Route 1, where we may want to, like the comp plan does talk about, adding more commercial uses. Well, we didn't have a very robust discussion and look at and review of all the properties that could be potentially impacted by this. And this was one property owner who, again, was petitioning the board to look at this. We really wanted to make sure that this would be up for existing commercial buildings only. That's the crux of that language, Mark. I suppose it's possible to take that language out, but keep that language in the special exception section. Ethan, do you see what I'm talking about?
I do follow.
So, Mark, I think what you're saying is you don't want to something that may be already allowed somewhere. Right?
No, that's not really my point. I mean,
Okay.
if that's the wording that makes it work, I'm fine with it. I just don't understand how, on one hand, you say the planning board, the wording the planning board suggested should not be used because it's a citizen initiated change, but yet in another situation, we change the wording. I don't understand the incontinuity there.
I think that's a fair question, and I do want to just chime in. My own concern is making it too narrow, which I understand the intent here, Jeremy, does kind of put us in a position where we're doing spot zoning. And it's something that I'm a little wary of.
Yeah,
And And so I just wanted to ask a question myself. Are we able, this is a citizen initiative, but aren't we able on our own motion right now as a planning board to propose any language we see fit to change this ordinance guided by what Chip has already provided us? Just a
That's fair,
question.
and that's fair, and I think you can, yes.
Yeah, so we don't have to follow a narrow path if we don't want to, Mark. That's my take on it.
That's,
So I think that's worth a discussion for the board. Anita, I saw that you wanted to chime in.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. One of my questions, Ethan, did relate to whether it's setting a precedent for spot zoning, just sort of an example that may, who knows, be added to existing examples. I don't know. And whether
This is certainly not the precedent. There's been several set before this.
dozens.
Right, exactly.
Dozens.
So, I mean, it just sort of adds to it. So is that a concern? What is the general feeling about precedent? I do have other questions. So.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it is a concern. I think it's something that we should try to avoid to the extent possible. There are situations where sometimes I guess it's probably called for. And, I don't think that we should be providing special exceptions to individual landholders just because we think it's a good idea without considering the impact on the rest of the people under the same restrictions. So that's my personal take, and that's not law. That's my personal take. I do want to check in and see if go ahead, Anita.
Oh, sorry. On the other hand, we did, in our discussion last time, we did discuss how the land is presently being used on that lot and that it is in keeping with the present use. And when people do want to make changes like this one, they do have to go before quite a few hearings and the planning board. So perhaps it shouldn't be a matter of concern.
Right. Okay. And Mark, did you want to respond to any of this?
Well, yeah, I mean, my point, and I don't want to blow it out of proportion. My point is, I mean, I think the way it's worded is just fine. It gets it done, but I just don't understand, and this is the town attorney that said that our wording was not appropriate because it was a citizen initiative.
Well, okay, so that really, Mark, just to clarify, when we looked at this the last time, there were all sorts of changes that we were looking at. Like you asked me to pull up the CR again. It was, we were going to change hotels, things that had to do with hotels and everything else.
Well, we weren't changing them. We weren't changing them at all. All right. All we were changing is the terminology of each paragraph that says expansion of. Okay. And all we did is take the expansion and put that into a separate paragraph instead of doing spot zoning. Well, not really spot zoning, but spot item expansions of different properties.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to make it complicated. I just
well, I mean, your concerns are valid, Mark, and again, I think there is the alternative path that I've laid out for us if we wanted to go another way. But as Jeremy said, if we want this to be on the ballot for June, that path must be both cut and finished today. And so that's an option for the board. If we feel like we want to take the broader path and cut a broader swath here, that's within our purview. But we need to do that with the goal of getting that done tonight, or we can say that this is suitable for the purposes that it's been proposed and agree to address these things down the line. That's really, I think, the way I see it, two options. Jeremy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and just to, it's, again, I just go back to the citizen initiated process, and I totally appreciate about cleaning some of these up, and we need to do it across the board and really look at this expansion or just, remove kinds of words, and we should do that. in the citizen initiated process for amendment, this is really Chip Late's thing, right? And Chip Late has to pay an application fee. There's I think $300 plus notice to all the abutters for this amendment. And so if we start tweaking it in different ways that also impact other properties and benefit other properties, I feel it's a strange kind of thing, because here's Chip trying to, propose a project or propose an amendment that can benefit his land. I mean, that's why people do that. And so he's got to pay for the hearing and everything else for it. And now we're going to throw on this other stuff. And I know it might be just remove a word here and remove a word there, but maybe that should be for a hotel to say, I want you guys to look at removing this language that says an expansion or reuse. I mean, I'm just trying to think of what is appropriate based on a citizen initiated process where that citizen is actually paying for the public hearing fee.
Right. And Jeremy, I think your point is well taken. And I think this is, unless anybody on the board has a burning desire, I think this is a really good time to have Chip jump in and give his input on the project that he's requested. And we can have board discussion again following Chip's discussion. Chip, do you want to introduce yourself and explain, and welcome, by the way, and thanks for your proposal.
Well, thank you very much. Again, my name is Chip Late. I'm a resident of Camden. I currently live at 26 Victoria Road.
Excuse me, can I just, because the language is different than the last language you accepted to go forward, the language there tonight is what Chip is going to be proposing, quote unquote.
Right. We got that.
You need to vote to accept those changes so that it's
before we
clear
go
what
to
language.
before we go to Chip.
Then you can do it again. If you want to change it, you can change it again, but you need to make that language that's being heard now
Gotcha,
official.
Jeannie. I see that. Okay, thank you for raising that.
All right, so I'd like to make the motion
Okay.
that this language proposed this evening does what it's intended to do and is acceptable.
That's fair enough.
Okay.
I wish I had more time to put that together, but that's, I guess.
that was a very lukewarm. That's great. Do I have a second on Mark's motion?
Nobody's going to second it?
Can I ask a question, Chair?
You certainly can.
And this is just for clarification purposes. Sometimes during hearings I've been involved with planning boards, and there's been alternates sitting in. Sometimes an alternate stays for the whole, or sometimes they'll switch over. And I'm just clarifying: is Pat Chen still the alternate that's voting on any of this language?
Yeah, Pat is still sitting on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I have a motion on the floor from Mark that the language proposed by Jeremy and also Chip is acceptable and does what it's intended to do. Do I have a second on that? Anita?
Sorry, it's a
You're muted.
question. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The one question I had about on the second portion of that,
Point of order is we really have to second it before we can discuss
No
it.
discussion yet
before we can discuss it, okay,
and vote
all
on it.
right, sorry.
Can we, Mark, can you just amend that motion to designate the exact language that we're talking about as it appears on the agenda? I think.
Perfect.
So the language as it appears on the March 4th agenda. Does that make
Yes,
sense, Mark?
yes, it does.
All right. I will, in that case, Mr. Chair, I will second Mark's motion to approve the language as it appears on the March 4th agenda in terms of the amendment, the citizens amendment by.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second, and now we can discuss. Anita, did you want to,
You get a vote on the motion?
First of all,
do we have to vote first?
No, we discuss it.
I think we can discuss.
okay. First of all, the first time I looked at this rewording, It might have, I'm not sure where that copy came from. It might have been the one sent out to us. But there was a typo in it. So I want to make sure that the one I'm looking at doesn't have the typo. So as long as you guys don't see a typo, I think it was a or instead of or something like that, that was a 2-letter word.
Was it a
was
parenthesis
wrong.
after the letter 3 in the second change?
No.
Oh, yeah, I see
No, it was a
that.
typo.
That's missing. I see that,
I
Jeannie.
got that one.
Okay, that's
If there's another
considered
one,
a non-substantive.
Right.
Right, thank
Yeah,
you.
but no, well, it didn't make it more substantive, and I just want to make sure, the version I'm looking at now, which I pulled off this evening off of the town website under the packet, I'm assuming is the most current one. But
Don't use that one. Don't
wanted to
use
be-
that one. Use the one that came with the agenda to make sure that you have the same one.
Yeah, so that's a tricky bit. I don't know how to make sure I have the one that came with the agenda without going into that.
You can
But there was
exit
a
the full screen and
just-
go to your email, Anita.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're sharing.
Okay.
Oh, who's that? Oh, there it is, Matt. Thank you.
And I can
Oh,
say
you
I've
got it?
reviewed it. I do not see any typos other than the one that Jeannie referenced, which is a missing parents after numeral 3 in the last line.
Hmm.
Okay. All right, so that must have been cleaned up. Jeannie, do you remember cleaning up a two-letter word? Okay. The other question is relating to this change will only be valid for something that will attach to an existing building, not something that will be built separately on a lot and fulfills all the other criteria. Is that what everybody intends and is happy with?
That was the request of the. That was the request of Chip Lake. It was discussed at the
Okay.
meeting that it would be attached to an expansion of.
It has to be
Okay, and the
existing
la-
as of 2003, so it
Right.
can't be built new.
Correct.
Attached to the existing, right. And you had mentioned in our discussion today briefly whether somebody wanted to take out the changes in
It would be in number 10.
section 5B. Section 5B, that those wording changes, and we're not going to do that, right?
Well, I think that's.
Well, we're discussed. That's what's up for
discussing it.
discussion right now. Yeah. So if you want to propose that, that's
So-
fine. But right now, Marcus said he's accepting the language as is, and that's what the motion
Right,
is on
so
is on the floor right now.
Okay, so I'm proposing that not be changed because it actually would make 5C different.
Okay, so
If
you're
those
agreeing
were-
with the
were
motion
taken
on the
out,
floor.
so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that's fair. That's fine.
Does anybody else have any discussion on
Uh-oh.
Mark's motion?
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that because in section 5B, it's paragraph 10, we are changing that and adding tradesman shop.
Mhm.
And that is part of the motion.
I think, Mark, I think Anita was leaving it.
She was talking about something else.
I think she was talking about existing commercial.
That's it.
Well, what I was talking about is I agree to add the words that you've added in 5B. And
Right,
if you
and that's what-
were
and-
going to take
and
those
Mark's
out,
motion-
then I would have concerns. Mhm.
Yeah, and Mark's motion was to accept it as is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no disagreement there.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Matt, do you have anything you want to add to the discussion? Okay. And Pat, did you have anything?
No,
Okay. So I guess we are supposed to take a vote on accepting the language proposed prior to Chip's discussion. Okay? So I will do a roll call vote. Mr. Siegenthaler? You made the
Yes.
motion. Yes? Mr. Siegel?
Accept the language. Thank you.
Anita?
Yes.
And Pat?
yes,
And I also will vote in the affirmative. Excuse me. The motion passes 5-0, unanimous. And now, Jeremy, you may go ahead and introduce our friend Chip.
Didn't he already introduce himself?
Well, we got started, but we were going to have him actually.
Okay, yes, my name is Chip Late. I'm a resident of town of Camden. I currently live at 26 Victoria Road. I also own the property at 216 Belfast Road. This consists of about 9 acres. Originally, this was purchased by my grandfather back in the early 1950s. And he built a garage on it using the old CCC lumber from the state park for a construction company. My father and I then went ahead and built this 80 by 120 foot steel structure back in the late 90s, primarily for construction equipment, maintenance and storage of construction equipment. And subsequently, we got approval to store boats, and then most recently to construct and do maintenance on boats. I'd like to go ahead and expand that building so that we could do more boat storage and more maintenance up there. Also like to include tradesman shops. It's a low impact area, and I think it fits good into the area. And I'd be more than happy to answer any other questions. In my discussion with Jeremy, this seems like the best way forward at this time. I know several years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, there were some discussions about redoing the CR zone, but that hasn't progressed quite quick enough for my needs. So that's why I wanted to go through this process.
Thank you, Chip.
Just
Did
so
any of the,
everyone,
go ahead, Jeremy.
just so you know, Chris Rio came into the discussion. He probably can't, you guys already voted on something, so I just wanted to mention Chris is here, so. Okay.
Welcome, Chriso, and your dog.
Not my dog, but
Oh, okay.
That's Matt's dog.
Matt's on mute.
Yeah, I think I'll take blame for that one.
Well, we all love dogs. So now I can't speak for everybody, but I love dogs. Anyway, all right. So we are now, we've heard from Chip, and there's time now for further board discussion. Any changes to the proposed language? And if not, then we need to hear a motion on voting to approve it.
Yeah, that's where I'm confused. I thought we did vote on approving it.
We did. Ethan, I think you got caught up there a little bit. That's
well, I'm following my cheat sheet. It does. Maybe I misread something, and I acknowledge that this is my first formal hearing. So
no, you're right on, Ethan. You had to approve the language that was going to be presented by Chip,
right,
and heard as the amendment. That's what you just did. Now you approve the amendment.
See, there you go. Don't mess with Jeannie. She's got my back.
So I guess the next motion would be to approve this language and forward it onto the select board for.
No, that's not where we are, actually. I think what we're going to do is set this for a public hearing on March 18.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that
have
point.
A discussion?
But there's absolutely a discussion. Yeah, if you want to say anything, now is the time, or forever hold your peace.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you. Sorry to be the chatty Cathy this evening, but in any case, I wanted to formally request of Chip that, and I wanted to know whether this needs to be done in a more official way, to please do his best to make the color fit in with the environment so it is least visible. from the top of Mount Batty because it's a large, very large building that will be almost doubled in size, I think. I don't know how that compares with the present building.
Yeah, and Anita, I
um,
appreciate that sentiment, but that is definitely not within the purview of the actual zoning ordinance change.
But
That would be if
can we
any
not-
site
can
plan
we-
review or something along those lines. But you certainly can speak to, give that. I mean, I see Chip wanted to respond anyway. I'll go ahead and let him, but I do want to point out that this is not really within the purview of the ordinance amendment. Go ahead, Chip.
So when would be the appropriate time to bring that up and request that of Chip?
Site plan review.
Site plan review.
And special exception.
Special
Remember, there's
exception.
You still got to go through
processes.
special exception as well. This
Yeah.
is not a rubber stamp,
Not a done deal.
approval.
Yeah, there are a lot of,
Okay.
Jeannie, excuse me, Anita, there's more of this process. This is just a zone change, and then it goes through the whole process of the special exception, which is basically a full presentation. And then if that gets approved, then it goes to the planning board for another one. But you see the picture right here? This is the existing building.
I know.
And I'm just going to add on to the back of it, the same color scheme.
Right.
It's going to be the same
Right.
thing. So those types of things would be specified in more detail during the special exception and planning board presentations.
Right. Thanks,
Thank
Chip.
you. So,
Chip, it sounds like with your explanations here, you ought to be on the planning board.
How do you do that? I don't know how.
Where'd he go?
He definitely knows his way around a Zoom call.
Yeah,
All right,
Anita, those are definitely things that are part of site plan or really special exception approval.
Yeah.
And is that done by, who does this?
Well, that's
The
the
zoning-
ZBA.
Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yeah. And then it would come to us for site plan review following that. But
Correct.
with that out of the way, is there any more comments from the board? Pat, did you have anything you wanted to add to this discussion?
No, but I think Anita brings up a valid point about the color of the roof, I believe it was. So thank you for clarifying when that could come up again.
Sure. Yep. And Mark, how about you? Anything else to add?
I have nothing further.
Okay. Matthew.
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And Anita, how about you? Hearing nothing there, I'm going to go ahead and check in with our friends. Chris O, did you have anything you wanted to add, even though you're not a voting member?
Nope. I think it all sounds
Okay.
great.
Okay, I think it's appropriate to ask. I don't know for sure if that's allowed. And Andy, how about you?
Yeah, nothing to add further to what's already been discussed.
Okay, great. I think then I am ripe for a motion to move this to a public hearing. If I have one of my motion people.
I would like to make a motion to move this forward to a public hearing.
On
18.
On what's our next meeting?
March 18.
March 18th.
March 18th.
On March 18th.
I would second that, Mr. Chair.
I will not be here for that meeting.
That's why you're really right to move that.
Hold on a sec. Luckily, we have the alternates.
So I guess Andy would have to fill in for that position.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I have a second from Matt Siegel.
Make a second, yes?
Yep. Okay. Roll call vote again. Mr. Siegenthaler,
Aye.
Matt Siegel,
Aye.
Anita,
Yes,
Pat,
Yes,
and I am also in the affirmative. That's 5-0. The motion carries. And we will set this for a public hearing, Jeannie, on March 18th, 2020 at 5 p.m.
2021, Ethan.
Well, it says in my paper 2020. I just read the words.
You can go back in time if you'd like. Chip, maybe you'd like to go back in time with us?
I mean, now you just see what a stooge I am. I'm just reading what's in front of me.
we don't need to go through 2020 again.
We don't need to throw anybody under the bus here. That I'll take the ownership. It should be 2021.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you
very
again,
much.
Chip,
Thank
Yep.
you.
for coming in and for your initiative here. And we will move on.
We'll see you on the
now.
18th.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Thanks, Chip.
Thanks,
Bye.
Chip.
Night.
All right. Thank you all.
I
Maybe
think that's
some,
about it.
that is about it. I just wanted to just touch base on a couple things, Ethan, if you don't mind, on future meetings.
I mean, are these non-agenda items?
Yes, they are. Cut me off if you want. I just wanted to,
You have 5 minutes. No.
less than that. So we'll do the public hearing hopefully, and then maybe a workshop session on either parking or comp plan. We're not going to get any other changes to the voters for June. So, but we do need to like start jumping into the comp plan stuff, and maybe we can do comp plan and amendments on climate change and sea level rise. We can start that process. I'll try to get you some information over the next week or so. Just some reading material from other communities. York has done a lot of work on that. So we should do that.
Can I also just jump in there and ask that you must have like the main study and the watershed school study. Do you have those?
Yeah, you want me to send all that to you?
I think it'd be great to send it to the entire board just so we're all looking at the same stuff. I think those are important documents for everybody.
Will do.
We've got to use what we have out there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, on all the studies. So
Absolutely.
we should all be looking at the same painting and then decide whether it's painted by a madman.
Yeah, I am going to try to get Pete Slavinsky. Pete Slavinsky is a ocean geologist, I think is what he is. He's a really amazing guy. He works for the Maine Geological Survey. He's done a lot of the mapping for the state of Maine on working with towns on sea level rise. So try to get him. Earlier this year, he said he would be more than happy to do a presentation, and I think that would be a good maybe intro kind of to this. I can work doing that. I also think I just want to comment, Pat and Andy, I think not all of you attended the the planning board zoning board workshop. For new members, I think it was probably very, very helpful. And I've heard from Andy and Pat that it was very helpful. I'm sure Christo, I think you probably thought it was helpful. They made both Pat and Andy had some comments, and I'd like to try to maybe jump into them a little bit just about process stuff that I think is important, especially as we may be hearing a site plan application at some point in the future on, review checklists and how to process for you guys, how to process the site plan review and what you should be looking at, what you can't look at. I think it's just important to kind of go over that. And I think having, and maybe we can even have, I think it's just a good thing we should do. So why don't we do that, have like a workshop initially, and then we'll do the public hearing, and then we can dive into things further.
Great, Jeremy, on that one issue, can I just jump in? Did
Sure.
you respond? Somebody requested whether we have access to the MMA materials.
Yes, and you do have access to those. You just have to create a login name and password. So it says a town planning board member.
We just have to indicate that we're a member of the town of Camden Planning Board, and that'll get us in.
It should. They have all your names on their list.
You should
gotcha.
be in touch with Janice Ecency.
Okay.
And she can facilitate that for you. Make sure that they have what they need.
Yeah, I did work with MMA already, the pre-meeting. So they have the current membership list, and when talking to them, they said you guys all should be, as soon as you try to enter in, you should be all set.
All right. Well, I would look forward to somebody trying that out and letting us know how that goes. Who wants to be the canary in the coal mine?
I have a notebook of that.
Of all those policies and things?
Yes.
Yeah,
I have
wonder.
the manual online. I'm happy to send it to anybody.
Okay.
An electronic copy.
All of you have access to that electronic copy on that membership link.
Great. That's good to know. Anita, your hand's been up.
Yes. Jeremy, could you remind us what the process will be for the Sagamore Farm when you're starting to move that forward? When, who, does it go first to the select board? Does it go to us, or what is that process that you foresee and the timing?
It will go to the select board.
Okay.
And, like timing wise,
Yep.
it's not gonna, timing wise, Anita, and this is off the agenda, but quick on it. Timing wise, it's likely not gonna go to the select board until the budget's done.
So at the end of March?
I would think that would be about, yeah, so April, I would guess some point time in April. I mean, we are jammed up with stuff. We've got the tannery going on, so getting the select board during March to have enough bandwidth to have discussions on Sagamore Farm, I don't see as realistic at the present. But it's there, and it needs to be addressed, and we're working on it. It's just you know, having the bandwidth. Right now, I've got 4 meetings next week, and the select board's the same way. So it's hard to, you know, we run out of time and we run out of days during the month of March, especially during budget time. And we've had a lot going on. So it is a priority for sure, Anita. It's just, you know, there's not a lot of bandwidth right now, frankly, just because, but it will go. I mean, I've heard from other people that submitted. I know you have some interest in it, and I've heard from all 3 entities that submitted proposals, and I just told them they just need to be a little patient right now, especially since
I'm concerned.
it
I'm
wasn't a
concerned that
full
we'll lose
request.
some of them.
I
Yeah.
I get that. I hear.
Okay.
I'll do
All
it.
right.
Anita.
Did you have any other non-agenda items, Jeremy, you wanted to talk about?
I have something just to back up here. I've got the Maine Municipal Handbook, which I received in 2011 when I went to the course. So if anybody wants to borrow the hard copy, I have it.
Yeah, I would
That's
just be worried about how
outdated.
updated that is. I mean,
It is outdated. I think they redid it in 18, maybe.
I think so too.
Sorry, Mark.
So much of this
everything's
is
gone digital
case
these
law.
days. It's all
Yeah.
online. If you need anything, I think it's there. I think there's some great resources there. And I think we would benefit from, you know, digging around there. And if you find something that's interesting, also feel free to share it with the rest of the board, not in relation to anything specific and under the general education topic. I think that's important, that we're not talking about a specific project when we're sharing information, but we can certainly send anything around that we find that's educational from the MMA that we think would benefit the board members in general. Matt?
Well, 2 points. Pat, I think it was Pat Chen had mentioned, and I had, when I first joined the planning board as well, about town emails. I mean, that had come up repeatedly in the MMA presentations about making sure that you have separate email. Jeremy, do you know if that ever got any kind of push officially?
No, and we can work on that. And you know, when we can also, we can all create our own Gmail account that's specifically for planning board stuff. We can also do it that way.
Okay.
Certainly, I'll talk to the IT people and see if we can get you emails.
Well,
which one of you is the shill for Google here?
Exactly, but I think as per, I think it was Pat, I think it was you who had brought that up this time around. That it might be beneficial just to have something, and if that, Jeremy, if Gmail does it, you know, I can certainly be MJ Siegel, you know,
Yeah.
whatever we decide it's called, you know, MJ Siegel, you know, CPB at Gmail kind of thing.
Right.
And then just following up, Mr. Chair, you had mentioned last time about the tannery. And Jeremy, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think there's an open workshop on Monday evening if people wanted to listen in on that discussion about the tannery. Is that an open workshop or is that a closed workshop?
No, I mean, we're taking comments. So I would encourage everyone, send an email. You can send it to me. You can send it to Janice. You can send it to Audra or the select board this is really about what the town would like to see there. And
that would be in our unofficial capacity, probably.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think it's fair to say you're on the planning board, ma'am. Planning board. I don't think you're not making any decisions, but you are a planning board member. I think that's
sure. Yeah. Yeah, but you're not speaking for the board per se. You're
Correct.
speaking as a member of the board.
Correct.
Yep.
But I do think it's important. I mean, it's kind of, it's all happening very fast, and unfortunately this is how it works. You've got meeting, and then all of a sudden things need to get to a June vote, and we've got to get the site cleaned up. We've got to get working on a redevelopment of this site. The only way the town is going to move forward is if people express their opinions and provide comments about not whether or not someone should have native plants involved on the redevelopment, or Anita's comment about solar, totally appropriate and totally appreciated. But I think these kind of discussions really need to be focused on big picture. What does the town want there? Do you want a project? Do you want the commercial industrial project? Do you want habitat, or do you want the Friends of Tannery? I think that's the kind of discussion that needs to happen at this point. And I think that's the intent of the select board meeting on Monday.
Okay. And I will point, I know that you were waylaid by a few of my members, but I will point out that you're well over your 5-minute time limit.
You kept me going. Okay. We're done by 7.
Do not feed the animals.
We're done by 7.
Without further discussion, Mr. Chair, can we make a motion to adjourn?
Well, there's one thing. I mean, in the old planning board, the chairman always had to buy drinks if we were out by 7.
Oh, yes. Well, too bad for social distancing. I'll have to give you a rain check on that one.
Sounds good.
Bars are closed.
With that, motion to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That looks unanimous. Thank you, everybody, for your service. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you especially Jeannie.
Yes, thank you.
For keeping me on the straight and narrow.
And Ethan, we'll see
you're
you March
behind,
18th.
but on the straight and narrow.
Well, I'll try to catch up. I could use an extra year of catch up.
Thanks. Have a good
Ethan.
night.
Good job.
Thank you, guys.
Care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Andy.
Bye.